question is, you got something, you're creative, you're productive, you're profitable, and you don't want the point where your growth has stopped. I've been thinking about this for 50 years.
The fear I think every founder has, if you have a strong personal brand, the moment you start losing relevance, it's like, uh-oh. When you see a brand losing your relevance, and it's like, you just know it. It's like the herd starts to abandon its leader.
And I think that there's a way for entrepreneurs to think about this differently, that they actually have two companies. One of them is an R&D company, which is the original company that got them started. And the other company is a multiplier company that you don't go public. One thing, do not go public, but you go big in terms of collaborations with other people who love you for the quality of what you've created.
I believe the DNA of the founder is encoded in brands that last, and their non-negotiable values are embedded in the DNA. Today we're going to be talking about scaling without suck. And everyone remembers how Starbucks used to be a fun place to go to. And the baristas would know your name. They'd remember what you purchased. And somewhere along the line, their quality went down. It went from being a fun place to a dirty place. And every business owner deals with this at some point where they either give in and scale and the quality degrades, or they keep it because they've got their egos in check and also realize they don't need to do that. But at some point, you give in to the public, or you really, really focus on your customer and client. Before we started this, Dan, you were riffing about your experience with Starbucks, what happened, but also translate this into a business owner's opportunity to divide their attention in two key places that makes a business fun, awesome, and feeds both the customer and the founder.
Yeah. Well, not to not to kick the lame Starbucks horse too much here. My sense is that I think inherently. Howard Schultz really wanted to create a revolution. He was an employee of a wholesale coffee company. That's where he got his experience with coffee. And he recounts having a trip to Venice and sitting in the plaza in Venice and just noticing the difference of the quality experience in Europe compared to, to be fair, before Starbucks, the United States was a Maxwell House coffee culture. They came in big cans, and you made them in this drip coffee that you made in your home, and that was. And I think it probably prevented a lot of people from becoming addicted to coffee because it was kind of awful. I remember 6 or 7 years old, and I snuck a sip of one of my parents' coffee, and I said, whoa. I knew that.
My dad, I remember opening up a can of Folgers. I loved that smell, but I remember tasting it, and I'm like, that does not taste the way it smells. Maxwell Health or instant coffee, for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, and he really, it came like a thunderclap when Starbucks, the packaging was beautiful. They created a concept of a third space. You could come there and work, like everything. And it coincided with people getting personal computers. If you look at the age and people, it was like we work where you enjoyed the we who you were and you enjoyed the work. You were there. And then I think they had about a 10-year window when it was really a quality experience. It appeared in all the movies. It was like you don't see Dell computers, or you don't see Windows computers. You see Apple computers, in movies. Because it's got a higher status. There's a cachet about, and Apple's done a really good job of staying in touch with the creative class. They've stayed in really good touch with, it's a higher quality. You pay more for it and everything like that. But they had about a 10-year window, and I would say it was probably 1990 to early 2000s, where there was still a sense that when you went into Starbucks, it was a neat experience. You just, you liked hanging out there. You went looking for a Starbucks, you went looking for a Starbucks, and, they weren't everywhere. And my sense was that, and I don't know if it could have gone any differently. So I'm not making any judgment. If you want to be a billionaire and you want your product to go all over the planet, and
yeah, you need the numbers.
You need the numbers, and everything like that. But in terms of strategic coach clients, and my all of our clients are small to medium size. We have a few really big businesses, but not that many. Small to medium, and what I mean like that, a low of maybe 5 people to maybe 500 people. That would be the range that we were in. And that's the definition of small, and 50 to 500 is medium. So our company's in a medium class. And the question is, you got something, you're creative, you're productive, you're profitable, and you don't want last year to be bigger than this year.
Right.
You don't want the point where your growth has stopped. And I've been thinking about this for 50 years. And I think that there's a way for entrepreneurs to think about this differently, that they actually have 2 companies. One of them is an R&D company, which is the original company that got them started. And the other company is a multiplier company that you don't go public. The one thing, do not go public. But you go big in terms of your collaborations with other people who love you for the quality of what you've created. So I'll just put that out as my framework of talking about this.
Right. So I'm going to ask you a question about, let's say you had an opportunity to talk to Howard Schultz, and he came to you, and you could ask him a question that would help him restore the barista handshake experience. Because when you were chatting earlier, you're talking about you'd get the thumbs up from the barista, which meant they know what your coffee is and they'd have it there, and you got, the extra creamy foam, and you increased the quality of the experience, could restore that. Is there any restoring a brand that loses its relevance? Because when you were just talking a moment ago, that's what I thought of is, at some point, if your business isn't maintaining relevance, it loses momentum. Mm-hmm. And that is the fear, I think, every founder has. If you have a strong personal brand, the moment you start losing relevance, it's like, that's a fear. And when you see a brand losing your relevance, and it's like, you just know it. It's like the herd starts to abandon its leader. Something gets lost. Mm-hmm. And so what's a super powerful Dan Sullivan question that could restore relevance or restore the original energy that existed before?
Yeah, I think the question I would ask him, Howard, when you started it if you had to pick a 10-year period when you loved how your company was growing, what was that 10-year period, and what were the 3 things you liked most about that period? So I'd get him fixated. Again, my favorite thing is going back to people's past. When you were really proud of what you had created, you were really enjoying being in your own stores. You really enjoyed being with your own customer, and you liked who the customers were. If you had to narrow it down to a 10-year period, what would it be? And I said, is there any possibility for you to capture that again and separate it out from the big public company, even start a private company again? And it's your R&D lab, where you can just pump quality into that model And then the lessons that you get from the what I call the R&D lab company, you can put that out to commoditize any way that you want in the marketplace, or you can even sell that part, that part of the company. It would be the original Starbucks. It would be back to the original Starbucks company. Okay. And you can raise the prices. You can raise the price. I mean, I think people who you would like to have you would love to have to your come back to your company is a certain type of individual where money doesn't matter. One. Number two, who will not spend on other things to save up money to come to yours. I mean, there's two types of people and everything like that. And then I would start attaching you to high level quality experiences out in the marketplace. Okay. And maybe there's a yearly membership on to the original Starbucks. I'm just pulling things out of the air. Somebody who really pulled this off well, and Jeff Madoff and I we're including a whole chapter in our upcoming book, Casting Not Hiring, is Ralph Lauren.
Yes.
Ralph Lauren has these beautiful stores, and he doesn't have hundreds of them. He's got in major cities, Chicago, New York, LA, probably not San Francisco now, because San Francisco is on the San Francisco. The same things happened to San Francisco that's happened to Starbucks, and everything. But London, Paris, Milan, and Italy, he's got these stores. And in some of the stores, he's got a cafe, a bar, and a restaurant in. But there's a maintenance of a very, very high quality. Now, I don't know if he's a billionaire, but he's certainly, hundreds of millionaire. But he's maintained a certain quality of image. And not every store can become global where it's everywhere. Not every business can can go that way. And I bet if he wasn't being recorded, I bet if Howard Schultz wasn't being recorded, he could tell you exactly what the 10 years were and how much love he had for that 10-year period.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you like to have it again, Howard? Would you like to have this feeling again? Okay. I mean, that's when Howard was really 100% committed to the quality of what he was creating. When did you stop being 100% committed to the quality and you started to be 100% committed to the quantity of what you had?
Yeah, and where I go to, so what I'm hearing is you're, going back to the experience extraction, right? So, what made that golden decade unforgettable? It's the feedback loop that made things great. And also the skunkworks environment, being able to be in that R&D space where you're constantly making something new, you're innovating and you're creating. And my guess when I listen to you right now is, well, you lost that when suddenly you had quarterly earnings and you were reporting not to the customer anymore, but you're reporting to Wall Street.
Yeah.
And that takes the fun out of business.
Yeah.
It's when there's that separation and you're no longer serving the customer, but you're serving a machine that conflicts with all of the elements that make that true.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take this a step further and let's imagine we're creating a mini toolkit right now to recreate.
You should run it through one of the AI programs and just say, when were the 10 years of Starbucks history when they were considered the best? It'd just be an interesting. what 10 factors make them the best when they were having their best years?
Okay, let's see. Let's see what it comes up with.
From a quality standpoint.
Oh, yeah. Let's see what it comes up with. While that's thinking, think about this through the founder's perspective in making this real and going through the innovation cycle. So I put myself in every founder, and when you feel like, oh, I hit a slippage point, and maybe I can ask you a slightly different question, which is more personal to you. So when strategic coach has gone through some evolutions, where have you experienced some of the biggest bumps that required corrective action, and what did you do about it? What changed inside you, and then what also happened systematically? And then I'll come back to what we get from ChatGPT.
Yeah. Well, I think our experience and our history is similar to 99% of entrepreneurs. It's that there was a period where from a front stage standpoint, everything really depended upon me. If Dan wasn't there, there wasn't anything. Like if Dan wasn't the coach. And it took us a good, I would say, 5 years to crack the nut on that particular issue. Okay. And it forced us into doing something that is now our biggest wealth creator. It forced us to get the ideas out of Dan's head, where she could used to do on whiteboards, and you could do with just big sheets of paper and one sheet of paper or 2 sheets of paper. And you began to realize that what people needed was very, very quick, fast shortcut thinking modules. Okay. And that you could, and the other thing is that if they were signing up for a year, they wanted to know if next year is just the repetition of the first year. Is next quarter we going to do the same exercise? And I would say for the first 2 or 3 years, from 1989 to 1992, it was the same thinking exercise we went through. And I would say our dropout rate was probably 30% at the end of the first year, 30% at the end of the second year, 30% at the end of the third year, and by the fourth year, you didn't have much left over. Mm-hmm. We're at the point now where out of every 2 people who sign up for year number 1, one of them goes to year number 4, and when they go to year number 4, they'll stay for another 3 or 4 years. Okay, so the money isn't in the getting them in the first year. The money is getting them into continue. Renewals are much more profitable than initial sales. Okay, but in 1994, I did 144 workshops. Those are full day workshops. I was doing them in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different cities. A lot of air miles in those days. Mm-hmm. A lot of hotels, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So we started. How do we get someone else to coach where we get the same sign up results and the same renewal results? Mm-hmm. And I think it took us from the point where we got our first coach, which was January of '95. So this is 5.5 years after we started, to the next 5 years, and we had a solid core. We were probably up to 5 or 6 coaches. Now we're up to 15, and I would say the last 10 years. We're in '95 now. I would say 2015 to 2025 are easily our best 10 years. Not just from a quantity standpoint, because we're much larger. Revenues are larger, profits are larger, reach is larger. But I would say the quality is much higher now than it was during any previous period. But the big thing is to have the associate coaches who are coaches, and all they have to do is coach. But the other thing is they're entrepreneurs. They're not hired coaches. They're entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And they get rewarded. The top one makes probably a couple 100,000 a year, and they get paid like airline pilots do. Bigger the workshop, the more you get paid. Bigger,
Yep.
bigger the renewal rate, the more you get paid. Higher the clients are paying, the more you get paid. So it's sort of like the way airline pilots, a 380 to Dubai, you get paid a lot more than a Embraer from, an Embraer from San Diego to Los Angeles or San Diego to Phoenix. You get paid a lot more money. The big thing is that we've really kept them. So we've had a total since 1995. So it's 30 years. We've had a total of 26 coaches, and we still have 16 of them. And, some, voluntarily left, and some we asked them to leave. But generally speaking, it's really been good. But all they have to do is coach, and we feed them with new tools. So they have to learn new tools every quarter. The other thing is they have to be clients. They have to be active clients of Strategic Coach to be a coach. And so we've maintained, and you've been in 10 times with other, the day before you do your workshop or the day after you do your workshop with me, you're with another coach, and it's a good experience.
Yes. So really what I heard here is one of the key things, and I'll bridge this back because I got my report on Starbucks. There's some similarities and parallels, is when you went from Dan doing all the work and also the tools, people didn't have a sense of a progress, moving up in the ranks and having more tools and a bigger future and being able to get further faster, because the tools had impact, but there was a shelf life there. So one of the things that you do now is there's always something new. There's a new tool, there's a new mindset, there's new thinking, and there's new collaborations that get created. That's another important thing. And then scaling through coaches who are rewarded and they're part of the culture. And here are some of the parallels that I'll share with you about Starbucks in this little report. And there's some good stuff here. I think your assessment was very accurate. 87 through 97 was peak. So that's when they brought in the espresso bars, handcrafted. They also had internal, partner first, what it said, local store design. So that was before everything looked the same. And grinding beans in front of guests, it was the smell. Mm-hmm. So he said, what went wrong? The super automatic espresso machines, and there was blocked eye contact, so there was no theater. Pre-ground coffee, no more smell, and I would argue no more taste. Oversaturation, so the culture, and then they also said they started just creating crap drinks, a bunch of sugar, which probably pushed away those higher value people willing to pay more, and they weren't looking at it and spending their last dollar. So, look at the takeaway. So it's codify the non-negotiables. That's very true. I always say you've got to preserve the mindset of the founder. The R&D Heritage Lab, there we go, prototype group, feeling special. And then look at that. The aroma, dwell time, barista name recall daily.
Yeah.
To prevent dilution, which you communicated in a lot of ways. That's really accurate.
Yeah. I'd like a copy of that to send to Jeff because it's really important to,
I'll get it sent over.
Yeah, and sure. The big thing is that there's my sense is that for every business, there's an appropriate maximum size that they should strive for, where they can double down on the quality of what they're doing.
Yes. That and that's the limiter. So limiting, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So that we are preserving exclusivity, and that amplified experience.
Yeah.
Makes tons of sense.
Now the question I would be in the follow-up question to Howard Schultz, I said, um, when were you most admired as an entrepreneur? And I bet it corresponds with the 97 to '07. I bet he was most admired, and he was seen as a real trailblazer. And once he went to quantity, he was, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what motivated him as an innovator and an R&D guy who tapped his greatest capabilities, where he took the synthesis of Italy, brought that in along with the architecture and the neighborhood. I mean, first of all, it went from a creative challenge and an immersive challenge to something that was scalable in the eyes of the bean counter. And the bean counters don't care about the real stuff that matters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's
yeah. And for a long time, they would only serve nibbles. They had dark chocolate. They had really great dark chocolate. There was about
Yep.
5 years, and then they got rid of the dark chocolate, and they started introducing every possible sugar concoction that you could, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I remember drinking a Starbucks, like a double shot, triple shot latte, and everything else. And it was like, whoa, whoa,
Yep.
whoa. And now I throw away half you're not supposed to throw the drinks into the trash, but I still do it.
Yeah.
If you don't have something for me to pour it out, then I'm going to throw it in the trash. So I bet the trash bags are a lot heavier now.
They're very heavy. Yeah.
don't puncture the trash bag.
Right.
It'll trouble. But it just took on a tawdry feel. Like now it's in every airport. It's in every it's gas stations. But once you went down the quantity line, anyone that could take it. Anyone where you could get a Starbucks in. Yeah. I used to stay in hotels because they had Starbucks in the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And now they're little factory machines making impersonal nothings with people who don't care.
Yeah.
So if you get back to scaling without losing essence, if there was that question that you could ask a founder that would help them establish and recognize essence, which again, nowadays we can feed that in. We could take conversations, we could take testimonials, we can take positive and negative reviews. We can feed that into ChatGPT or Manus, which is my favorite deep research agent now. I can get a complete assessment of a business and provide solutions based on that, and also mirror historical data from other companies, your competitors. It'd be like learn from the top competitors and what makes them unique, and grab all their essence by using customer client feedback. You could create a top 10 list of stuff to implement.
Mm-hmm.
But from a psychological perspective, how would you inspire? What's the question you'd ask a founder right now to inspire them to get back to what got them excited in the first place, and recreating that experience for themselves that gets echoed inside the brand?
Yeah. 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 It's really, I think the difference between entrepreneurs, period, if I separate entrepreneurs as a group of people from, let's say, corporate executives, is that one, they last a lot longer. Entrepreneurs last a lot longer, and when was there a corporate executive who was a hired gun that you actually remember a year after he's gone?
Yes. Yeah. Here, I'll tell you.
They're commoditized. They're commoditized individuals.
Yeah, and sanitized by a Wall Street selection process,
and by their legal firm.
Yes, yeah, de-risked, because I think most founders are loose-lipped and they got fast guns and fast mouths. What I ask people all the time when I talk about the importance of building a strong personal brand as a founder, because here's the pushback and the objection I would get, is they'd say, I don't want to give up my anonymity and my freedom and to be famous. And I will say, okay, well, that's valid. But everyone remembers who launched, created, and founded Apple. And you certainly know, whether at this moment you love them or hate them, who started Tesla and SpaceX. And if I asked you what the CEO is of the car you drive, unless it's a Tesla, or the phone company, the cellular provider you use, or the cable company you use, or anyone else who you buy a lot of stuff from on autopilot, month after month, what's the name of that person? And no one can answer that question. It just, without exception. And I believe the DNA of the founder is encoded in brands that last. Mm-hmm. And their non-negotiable values are embedded in the DNA. And Apple, for all of its, someone would say it lost its soul. Some of that's true, but Tim Cook scaled that business to multiple trillions. And he had the right amount of reserve and operational excellence and enough respect to preserve some of the core values.
I also think he had a real personal commitment to the founder.
Yes, which was because he spent how long with them?
Days, weeks.
Yeah. And at least a decade. I don't remember how long his pre-tenure was before he was selected, but I think that was like a profound level of trust. And when in history,
he's probably the most, in my mind, he's probably the most visible of the inheritors that I can think of in the last 30 or 40 years. Somebody who took over a company from somebody else, who was an iconic founder. I think Tim Cook is probably right at the top of,
Yeah, and you look at Microsoft or Google, there's leadership there, but not what I would call charismatic, joyful leader who was not unafraid to spar verbally with the world and would not compromise. It's sort of like the moment when Elon took over Twitter, and it became X, and he publicly told Disney and a whole bunch of other advertisers he would not compromise on his core values, and they could go F themselves. And it was like so shocking to the audience. He goes, and the guy who was interviewing said, "Are you sure?" He goes, "Yeah, I mean it. Go F yourselves." He goes, I don't need you. I'm not going to be held hostage by your." At the time, he was at war with DEI and what he thought, and there was it just came down to his interpretation of what
he was alone. He was alone because he didn't even have the benefit of being a Republican in those days.
Yeah, and you had in a way, another example of that is Palmer Luckey, who we've seen a couple times at Peters, who got ousted effectively from Meta, who bought his VR company. Yeah. And because he supported Trump, which was very unpopular at the time, and then went on to found Anduril, and he's still a very verbal, combative, loud personality who, he's either going to rub you the right way, he's going to pet your hair in the right direction or the wrong direction.
He's also really funny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's got a great sense. He's got a great sense of humor. Yeah, that helps. that helps.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what have we established here? Because my sense is that the exercise that we have in Coach actually creates a satisfactory solution where you can scale. Okay.
Yeah.
Like my feeling is the next couple of years with the new mainstream market books that we have coming out, we're going to, it's very, very clear to us that we're going to scale. And, but everything's in place. We got great teamwork. We've introduced the 4x4 scaling tool throughout the organization. We're now creating 4x4 coaches in the organization that are every one of our team members can recalibrate every month or so, what their role is in the company. And they're in charge of, they're really in charge of doing this. So I think, but we're not going to be, we won't be getting any invitations from Wall Street to go IPO or from Silicon Valley. I mean, I like my free days. I like my lifestyle. I like the collaborations that I have with people who are not only great business people, but they're great friends. And, we're cool. I'm cool.
Yeah. My take on this, you really began with it, which is dividing the company into two parts, the R&D company and the Multiplier company. And a charismatic, innovative, creative founder they should place themselves in the R&D box, because that's what gave the company its soul, its foundation, what made it attractive. And their pursuit should be to evolve and create, if necessary, new brands and new products that adhere to the original vision, and it should create more exclusivity, more experience, and more valuable products that people are willing to invest more, as you said earlier, without looking at their budgets. In other words, this is a must spend, and I don't care what it costs, I'm going to buy it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that is the soul of a great company that's built to last, and the multipliers can bring it to market as long as they adhere to the non-negotiable values that made it work in the first place.
Yep.
And I think there has to be a tripwire and things in place, or maybe it's time to sell off the Multiplier brand to create the payoffs to create more R&D. But at some point, you're going to lose relevance and attention by over-commoditization.
Yeah.
That would be my synthesis of this episode.
It's terrific.
All right.
You could go to almost any business school in the United States, and it wouldn't be as good a lesson as we just created.
I think so. And we just made it up with a little bit of help. So, we'll wrap this up. Is there anything that you want to leave our listeners and our viewers with in this episode?
Yeah. The thing is that, it's a coming tool, but I haven't really developed it yet. Always look at tomorrow from the standpoint that it's now yesterday, and are you still proud?
Ooh.
So the way you handle tomorrow, if you
Yep.
the way you handle tomorrow, if it was yesterday, would you be proud of how you handled today?
No, that's a thinker and a writer-downer. I love it. That's definitely a future episode. Great way to end. So we'll wrap this one up. This is Capability Amplifier with my good friend Dan Sullivan. I'm Mike Koenigs. Like this, share this, and we will see you in another episode very, very soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.